Yo, it's CJ. Welcome back to the channel, dear viewer. Today I want to give my thoughts on the good and bad in PoE 2 and D4 and my wish list for both games. Alright, before we dive in, I just gotta say the support on these videos has been insane. 3 weeks ago I started this just to share my experience and help others out in Path of Exile, but I knew I wanted to share my thoughts and I realized I had way more to say, breaking things down, diving deep and starting real discussions about these games. And it turns out a lot of you are into it. Now we've got thousands of new viewers, tons of engagement and a growing community of gamers, ARPG fans and gacha enjoyers sharing their own thoughts. Seeing so many of you get involved has been incredible and I seriously appreciate every single one of you. If you want to keep the conversation going, I'm also streaming over at Twitch, so come hang out. Now let's talk about the good, the bad and what I'd love to see from both games moving forward. Let's start with PoE 2, the good. The campaign is sweet pre-cruel. The experience of the campaign is awesome. The vibes, the atmosphere, the pacing, the bosses, until you get to cruel. That's where it starts to really fall apart because you're just way too strong. So yeah, the bosses are fun until you start one-shotting every single one. Like the Act 3 final boss was a joke by the time you get there. We got cool character creation animation. My partner wanted me to add this in, but yeah, when you make your character and, you know, the Exile falls off of the noose and starts running away, it's epic. You are able to use more skills than in D4, like on your bar. I do have a negative about this later though. The skills overall are pretty cool. The way you can modify them is pretty cool. The support gem system. I mean, coming from PoE 1, I already knew that was going to be pretty cool. The story was okay, like it was serviceable. I feel like there's kind of a decent amount missing, like compared to PoE 1. Like where's the out of space stuff? The new player onboarding is much better than PoE 1. Like the new player experience is much better than PoE 1. MTX pricing is fair. One of my mates who is a new player said the PoE community is very helpful, specifically like asking questions in global chat. He always basically got instant replies, which I was quite surprised about. When compared to D4, it's pretty cool that you can modify maps and waystones, something I felt was missing from D4. And finally, the end game has far more depth than D4. Surprise, surprise. Okay, now for the bad. I would have had more good things to say, but there's just so many things that I want to be added or changed. So I have more things in the wish list / bad section of the video for PoE 2. Now for the PoE 2 bad. Again, the campaign falls off hard once you approach cruel. The end game does need work. The devs are aware of this, so that's okay. But yeah, the simple objectives like complete X amount of tier X is not very exciting. Not enough cool things to find. Again, the devs are aware. Trading sucks. Like the trading experience sucks. Having to deal with other players sucks. Yes, the trading site is fine. It's good. But the same things that made it bad in PoE 1 are bad in PoE 2. Like just let us list items for people to buy or for us to buy off other players so we don't have to deal with players and just shit traders. Not that I really care. SSF gang. Don't let us place multiple bells / anything else in this vein. It's just overpowered and stupid. Another one, game ended up like PoE 1 anyway. What I mean by that is the 1 to 2 button gameplay. Somehow, despite the vision, just worse anyway because movement skills got giga nerfed. For example, compare PoE 1's shield charge or leap slam to PoE 2's shield charge and leap slam. Speaking of leap slam, can we talk about how bad warrior feels and how bad mercenary feels? I played warrior as my first class in PoE 2 and unlike Asmongold, I didn't quit when I got to Lachlan and reroll. I got to level 85 plus before deciding to try out another character. And warrior is fine in a vacuum. It is perfectly viable. I was one-shotting bosses by the time I got to cruel. No problem. It just feels so clunky and jank and slow and dog shit. Holy fuck. Why is there a wind up on fucking everything, bro? And why on the skill tree does any increase of damage have to be tied to making yourself even slower? What the fuck is that? Feels so bad. Like at first I was playing Mace Strike and Bone Shatter, so that was my screen clear. It was just Mace Strike something, Bone Shatter and explode the screen. Mace Strike something, Bone Shatter the whole screen. And then I was like, well, I saw Khan running the Stampede ability and I was like, okay, sure, I'll try that out, because now I only have to press one button instead of two. But what the fuck? Why does Stampede make you run off in different directions and shit? Like, anyone who's played Warrior Stampede knows exactly what I'm talking about. You'll run into walls, you'll just run backwards for no fucking reason. It just feels so fucking stupid, bro. Honestly, shout out to Khan for enduring that shit. That's some crazy mental fortitude to put up with that shit. And speaking of Mercenary, my partner and my mate, who is new to ARPGs and comes from FPS background, we all made Mercenaries together because it looked fun. And at the time, there was a couple of streamers who thought Mercenary looked OP, but that was before we knew how kind of dog shit they were. And it felt so shit. It felt so bad. We got to level 30 maybe, and we were just like, how does anyone put up with this shit? It feels so bad. The reload, the jamming, like it just ain't it. And this is coming from someone who has played thousands of hours of FPS games. They designed this class for FPS players trying out ARPGs. Man, that ain't it, bro. And if they want it to be more tactical and using all these different grenades and shit, at least just make them all strong. Like, we tried all different sorts of combinations with the mercenary skills, and it just felt like no matter what combination we used, it felt bad. Which is funny because endgame mercenary looks like using one skill anyway, like galvanic shards for AoE screen clear, etc. Not to mention the more experienced PoE 2 players who decide to level up a mercenary were just using crossbow shot anyway and just abusing heralds because heralds are just good on every class, or just outright not using the crossbow because ew. And it partly had to do with group scaling, but even solo mercenary didn't feel that great, and unlike other classes in co-op, they felt perfectly fine, whereas all three of us had this experience of, wow, this class really fucking doesn't feel good in a group, does it? And we all had finished the campaign at this point on other classes, so some of it being group play, some of it not, but still. Another con is there are so many bad map layouts in endgame maps. Some examples, and if you're in the endgame you know this: Vile Factory, Vile City, Maya, Crypt, Willow, Augury, Riverside, Forge, Burial Bog, Seepage, just to name a few. God, I fucking hate Augury. Those fucking levers, man. On the same topic, some map layouts in the campaign are way too big. They feel like they just drag on forever. Matland Waterways comes to mind, as well as the Apex of Filth in Act 3. Minions need to be fixed. I know the devs are aware of this one, so that'll get ironed out eventually. Or they can remove minions to finally make Ben happy. Another thing I have written down is, why are basic attacks unironically giga strong? Is this what GGG wants? Feels like it really goes against the whole comboing, using multiple skills vision, but we're all using 1 to 2 buttons anyway at this point. So next, why do you have to pick up reach splinters one by one? Holy fuck. My friend also wanted me to say the crafting system needs to be explained better for new players. Crafting in quotes, but yeah, perhaps that could be improved. Finally, getting stuck on party members can be annoying on some map layouts. I just don't like the body blocking in general, but I know they want to keep it, so. My other mate who's new to PoE, though this is just one final good point. My friend who's new to PoE really likes the endgame, like the depth. He said it's like a ceiling he can't reach. Every time he feels like he's getting closer, it's just further away, which is exactly what you want out of an endgame, I feel like. Just more to sink your teeth into. Alright, the good of D4. First, we got the chill brain off gameplay. Perfect for relaxing or chilling with your mates. Season 7, Witch Tide / Headhunts are fun, but need some improving still. Like, it's not fun to run to the Raven. Either make it come to us or let us overflow whispers like Pale Marks. Or just make it so I can hoard whispers, then the rewards get more and more giga juiced, or I can just turn them in all at once. Root holds are in the step in the right direction, but I do think we should be able to modify nightmare dungeons to make them harder or more rewarding. And by rewarding, I don't mean more things dropping on the ground, because anyone who's been playing D4 knows there is enough shit that drops on the ground. But I mean really rewarding. Like the shit that gets dropped on the ground is actually rewarding. Yeah. Okay, now for the bad of D4. It feels similar to D3 in the sense that the end game feels non-existent / pointless. However, D3 does the whole pit thing better than D4. So because that's what D3 is going for, feel like it's okay for D3. But for D4, it feels like there's no real reason to get stronger, especially because you get strong so fast. Like my mate who loves PoE's endgame, his first ARPG was D4, and he got to D4's endgame and got to the point where he was one-shotting all the Ubers, and then past that he just, lost interest because there was nothing else to do besides get stronger for the sake of getting a higher number in the pit. And it's just like, for a lot of people, it's not really something they want to do. It's not challenging in a way. It's just get better gear to get higher number, and that premise alone isn't intriguing enough, or you know what I'm trying to say. However, this same dude who's been a lifelong FPS PvP enjoyer is in love with PoE 2, and he's currently stuck on Simulacrum. Like, there's just depth in the end game of PoE that is just lacking from D4. And anyone who's played PoE 1 only knows that there are many systems, endgame systems, that are bound to get added to PoE 2 / new endgame systems to get added to PoE 2 for us to sink our teeth into more. Whereas new D4 season, we don't really get things like that currently. Hopefully that changes in the future. Obols are shit for gambling. They're only good for keys now. Like, why? Once you get to, say, torment difficulties, why do blues and yellows even show up in the Obols vendor? That shit needs to be changed immediately. Like, at that point, you ignore basically all legendaries, even ancestrals that are non-GA'd. So what the fuck am I gonna do with yellows and blues? There's no loot filter in D4. It's dog shit. It needs a loot filter. Consoles need a loot filter. Not that I play consoles, but I've had multiple people comment on my videos already saying consoles need a loot filter. But yes, we all need loot filters on D4. Add loot filters, please, for the love of God. Especially with the amount of loot that they're giving us currently in D4. It's absurd. We'll have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of legendaries drop all the fucking time, but they're all useless legendaries, and you get so many mats that there's not even any point picking them up to salvage them. There's literally no point. So they just clog up your screen. It's just awful. Since there are titles and achievements you can get for reaching pit 150, it feels dumb having seasons where a number of classes can't even clear up to 150. Every class should be able to. Even D3, every class can. I don't know how they even pass that. Like, I don't know how they launch a season like that in D4. I hate having to redo strongholds and waypoints every season. A Redditor suggested having a toggle to reset a stronghold for whispers though. I think that's a good idea. The game needs more viable builds. Ties into the being able to reach pit 150, but I think the game needs more viable builds. Side quests are pointless in the end game. We need major buffs here. Probably the same for sellers too. We just need actual reasons to do them. The general mount movement needs to be cleaned up. Like, sometimes you go over the interact jumps and your mount gets stuck and you have to TP to town. In a similar vein, I've climbed up a cliff and my character gets stuck at the top and you have to climb back down and up again, which is annoying. Let me see my HP numerically. I don't know why this isn't a toggle, like a setting where you can just see the number of HP you have. Also, can we have a separate rune tab that actually fits all of your runes? Like, seriously. Boss mats should also be similar to sigils and let you TP to the boss dungeon. I hate having to run to the dungeon every time. I forgot to add these in the previous section, but these are a list of things that I think are too strong in PoE currently. Heralds, they should probably eventually get this strong, but they get way too powerful way too soon. Grim Feast and Energy Shield in general, Wind Dancer and Evasion, and Hammer of the Gods is probably way too fucking strong. It's just one-shotting all the bosses with it, so. And this wasn't even going poison, which is like what is meta, so. Stat stacking just needs to be toned down heavy, like PoE, Pillar of the Cage God, and Gemling. Again, I think maybe they should get that strong eventually, but not until you're like level 96 plus. I think they're just far too overtuned. And yeah, basic attacks like Mace Strike, Bow Shot, Crossbow Shot, etc. Okay, PoE 2 Wishlist. I think they should find a way to further decentivize players, especially trade players, from thinking in exalt/divs per hour. I don't know, there's just something about it for me. I just feel like they need to be thinking about the game differently. I don't know, they need to find a way to, yeah. I'm not really sure how. I want them to bring back the crafting bench. I miss the PoE 1 crafting bench. It's just a good way of getting resistances, or a quick way of getting DPS during the early game, like prior to getting to maps, or yeah, getting the resistances you need prior to maps. I don't think it was that broken at all, considering the crafting bench doesn't really have max rolls. It's just like low rolls of things. But even early game, if you can just craft on cold resist when you're about to fight a cold boss, even though you'd be getting low rolls of cold resist, it would be huge. I still agree with GGG that it shouldn't be fully deterministic, the crafting as a whole, but I think the crafting bench is a nice addition, especially for pre-endgame gameplay. Greater essences and omens need to be way more common. Way more common. I was one of the lucky few in SSF to somehow get omens like 3 times in a row doing ritual, but that just is not the case for 99% of players. We need to be able to engage with these systems. Same as with greater essences. I think that they did buff it slightly, but we need way more greater essences. Way more. Also, can we see the skill book without having a skill gem, please? Thank you. All right, what could be added/changed to D4? My D4 wish list. I think they need to add rare mobs like in WoW to the open world. I think that would be really cool. Even in dungeons, maybe. Like, I know you have the butcher, which you randomly encounter, but it's just not that special. They need to bring back things like the vault from D3. For those who don't know, it's like a special portal map that you got from a treasure goblin, and it was just epic when you went there. There was heaps of loot with a cool mini boss at the end, which gave even more loot. Cool little things like this that you could just find. D4 needs more of that. We also need more collectibles, like mounts, to be acquired from playing, grinding, and farming for, not just MTX. They need to bring back equipment sets too. I don't know why those aren't in the game. We need more bosses, and we need them to be more difficult. Like, make them difficult. Not like OG Uber Lilith difficult, where no mistakes are allowed, but no just being able to one-shot the boss. I think it's silly. Even the same in PoE. I don't think you should be able to one-shot any boss, or at least no one-shotting any pinnacle bosses / Uber bosses. In the spirit of Monster Hunter, I think they should add something like a boss hunting bounty thing where we can activate it for a certain zone. Like, every zone in the game would have a board in town where we can start a hunt, and then in that zone there are like unique bosses to find and kill. It'd be like an alternate avenue of boss farming. I think that'd be really cool. I think Blizzard needs to let us make nightmare dungeons harder. Since season 6, you've been able to just replace jewels. So I don't even understand why the unsocket mechanic exists. Just let us take out the jewels wherever then. I just found out this season as well that you can type equipped at the Codex of Power, which is cool and all, but why don't they just show us what we have equipped by default, or in its own tab, or have like a little box that you tick that says equipped, and it would just show you all of them that you have equipped. Items on the floor as well should show if they're upgrades for aspects in my codex. Same with items from the barter vendor. I don't know why that's not the case. They need to show us as well what uniques drop from bosses, so we don't have to look it up online, which is what everyone does anyway. It probably should be explained somewhere that elixirs also don't stack, but you can have one of each of the incense types active, totaling 3. So the stat one, the defense one, and the resistance one. We need a sell all button. Please, Blizzard, we need a sell all button. I can't stress this enough. We need a sell all button. Again, we need a loot filter as well. And let the pet auto salvage whatever we're filtering out. D3 already had this. Favorite aspects need to be at the top of the Codex of Power, so I don't have to fucking search them every time. Another cool idea I think they should add is show the rank of the highest unlocked aspect on the items. In general, monsters also just need to spawn faster, especially when they come out of the ground. They just crawl out of the ground so fucking slow sometimes. It does my head in. We also need more abilities and more ways to alter them. Currently, it's just 1 or 2 choices on the skill tree, and then you have 1, maybe 2 aspects which can change how they fundamentally function. I also think player housing is always cool. Something like the den, but you can customize it and upgrade it. Something like what Escape from Tarkov has maybe. I should probably elaborate on this further. So in Escape from Tarkov, in your hideout, while you're playing the game, you can gradually upgrade this hideout to be cooler and cooler and give more and more benefits, different benefits. So now that I think of it, actually, the benefits are kind of similar to the Altar of Rights in D3, just nowhere near as overpowered as the Altar of Rights in D3. But also, you know, player housing in other games where you can customize it to your liking. Make it a bit more your own. Also, why don't we have a search bar for glyphs? That's an easy one. Search bar for glyphs. I think they should also show which nightmare dungeons are worth whispers on the sigils themselves. Make all nightmare dungeons worth whispers even. But yeah, sometimes you have a whisper which is complete X nightmare dungeon. If you have a sigil for that, it should just show it in your inventory. This one is worth whispers. So you can do those ones first without having to look at your map. Let us zoom out our camera more. Let us zoom out our camera more. Let us zoom out our camera more, please. Thank you. Another one about the pet. I think the pet should pick up everything that doesn't go into the main inventory. Also, let me customize what the pet picks up. Oh my gosh, this next one. We need to be able to reroll last temper, like a button that rerolls the last temper on an item, instead of going in and clicking the exact same one every time anyway. The party member portal was also missing at the Tree of Whispers for some reason. Why? Infinitely stacking boss mats, especially with how bosses are right now. I don't see why we can't have infinitely stacking boss mats. Just make the game so much cleaner. This one's a big one for me. Stash tab affinity system. So something like PoE, what PoE has, where you can mark a stash tab to be, say, gems. And now it doesn't matter what tab you're on. If you right click a gem to put in your stash, it will go to that tab automatically. Please, stash tab affinity system. This one's for my endgame boys, which is everyone, because you get to endgame in a blink of an eye. Let us pre-allocate our points on the Paragon board. So it just adds the points to where you pre-allocated them as you level up. Here's one for our noobs and casuals. Let us import the Paragon board from... Let me rephrase it. We need to be able to import a Paragon board for noobs and casuals who just want to copy a guide's Paragon board, because there's heaps of people like that. They don't want to think about Paragon board at all. They just want to copy some guide, which is what they're going to do anyway. Let them just import it. We also need more things to do with ancestrals and uniques that are salvaged, like the materials. Also, can Blizzard please rewrite the code for the sorting algorithm in the Codex of Power? It shouldn't take 5 seconds after writing the word power in the search bar for it to finally sort and show me aspect of power. Even PoE's search bar for the stash, which shows far more things than the amount of aspects that even exist in the Codex of Power, sorts quicker than that. In seconds. Fix that shit. Recode that shit now. Alright, lastly, they need to make the open world way cooler. It has so much potential, especially with the multiplayer aspect. Currently, headhunts with a headless spawn is too similar feeling to Helltide altar farming. What I mean by that is you're just killing things in a one screen radius running in a circle, when it could be like a big badass mob boss roaming around and you and some dudes killing it. It fucking leaps off somewhere in the zone, but it has a trail, like a blood trail that you follow, and you hunt it down. And while you're fucking hunting it down, you kill massive hordes that spawn along the way until you get to the boss, and then it has a new phase with new moves. You get it down to like a third HP, it flees again, you hunt it again, etc. And then afterwards, it gives you sick as fuck loot. Kind of like a Legion event, but way fucking cooler than what they are now. Alright, that's gonna wrap it up for this one. But before I go, I just want to say thank you again. I can't believe that in just 3 weeks, thousands of you have come through to listen, discuss, and share your thoughts. The engagement, the debates, the deep dives, it's been awesome, and I appreciate every single one of you for being a part of it. And moving forward, we're not stopping at just ARPGs. Expect more discussions like this on MMOs, FPS games, gachas, etc., or anything new or interesting that grabs my attention. If you are into these deep dive discussions, stick around. If that sounds good to you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more videos. And if you want to catch me live, come hang out over on the Twitch channel. Let me know what you think or what you'd want to see next in the comment section down below. Thanks again for all the support, and I'll catch you in the next one, dear viewer. God bless and peace.
Gotta do it hella big, had to run it back again.
Stop.
Gotta do it hella big, had to run it back again.